Stanford University, California, August 1971. The campus moves at a quiet, unhurried pace. Students cross sunlit walkways between red-roofed buildings, carrying textbooks under their arms. Vintage Chevrolets and Ford Mustangs line the parking lots. Somewhere inside the psychology department, a small advertisement appears on a university bulletin board. It reads simply, "Participants needed for a psychological study of prison life. $15 per day." The ad attracts dozens of responses. Young men, mostly college students, curious about the study and drawn by the modest pay, show up to be interviewed. Researchers screen them carefully, selecting those who appear psychologically stable, healthy, and without criminal history. 24 men are chosen. None of them have any idea what the next few days will bring. In the basement of Jordan Hall on the Stanford campus, researchers begin constructing something unusual. A corridor is converted into a simulated prison. Metal doors are installed. Small cells are created from converted laboratory rooms. Fluorescent lights hum overhead. Observation windows are fitted into walls. Benches, tables, and security equipment fill the narrow space. The environment is uncomfortable, institutional, and deliberately designed to feel confining. Philip Zimbardo, a psychology professor at Stanford, leads the study. His team assigns participants randomly to one of two roles, prisoner or guard. The assignment is made by a simple coin flip. One group will wear khaki uniforms, carry wooden batons, and wear reflective sunglasses. The other group will wear smocks, be given identification numbers instead of names, and have a chain attached to one ankle. The symbolism is deliberate. The researchers want to strip away individual identity and replace it with role. On the morning the experiment begins, the men assigned as prisoners are arrested at their homes by actual Palo Alto police officers who cooperate with the study. They are handcuffed, placed in police cars, and brought to the simulated prison. The arrests are unannounced. The participants had been told to simply wait at home, but the sudden arrival of real officers makes the experience feel unexpectedly real. Once inside the basement facility, prisoners are processed, given their numbers, and placed in their cells. The guards take their positions. At first, the atmosphere carries an almost playful quality. Some participants smile, some make jokes. The whole situation feels slightly absurd, but that feeling does not last long. Within the first 24 hours, something begins to change. The guards, who have been given no specific instructions on how to behave beyond maintaining order, begin to take their roles seriously. Some become authoritative, others become controlling. They enforce rules with increasing rigidity. They wake prisoners in the middle of the night for roll calls. They assign tedious tasks and punishments for minor infractions. The prisoners, meanwhile, begin to respond not as college students participating in a study, but as actual inmates. Some become passive and withdrawn. Others grow anxious and emotionally distressed. On the second day, several prisoners stage a rebellion, barricading themselves inside their cells. The guards respond by using fire extinguishers to push them back. The dynamic has shifted entirely. What began as an academic exercise is beginning to feel like something else. Researchers observe from behind glass, taking notes as the situation escalates. Zimbardo himself takes on the role of prison superintendent, a decision that would later be heavily criticized. Within 36 hours, one prisoner begins showing signs of severe emotional distress, crying uncontrollably and experiencing disorganized thinking. He is released from the study. Others follow in the days ahead. The guards, emboldened by their authority, begin using psychological tactics to maintain control. They humiliate prisoners, restrict bathroom privileges, and create divisions among the prisoner group by offering small privileges to some while punishing others. The prisoners begin to internalize their roles. They refer to themselves by their numbers. they follow orders without question. The line between performance and reality has blurred in ways the researchers had not fully anticipated. The experiment was originally designed to run for 2 weeks. By the 6th day, it was terminated. Christina Maslach, a psychology graduate student who visited the facility and later became Zimbardo's wife, reportedly confronted him about what she witnessed. She described the conditions as deeply troubling. Her reaction, combined with mounting concern from other observers, contributed to the decision to end the study early. When the experiment concluded, many of the participants who had played guards reported feeling disturbed by their own behavior. Some prisoners expressed relief that bordered on disbelief. The basement facility was dismantled. The fluorescent lights went dark. But the questions that had been raised inside those corridors were far from finished. The Stanford Prison Experiment became one of the most discussed studies in the history of psychology. It was cited in textbooks, referenced in lectures, and used to argue that ordinary people could adopt abusive behaviors when placed in positions of institutional authority. Zimbardo presented the findings as evidence that situational forces, meaning the roles and environments people are placed in, could override individual character. The study was referenced in discussions about real prison abuses, military conduct, and the psychology of authority. However, the experiment has also faced substantial and growing criticism from researchers and historians. Critics have questioned whether the study meets basic standards of scientific methodology. The sample size was small. The participants were not a representative group. The conditions were not properly controlled. Perhaps most significantly, recordings and accounts that emerged decades later suggested that Zimbardo and his team may have actively encouraged the guards to behave harshly rather than simply observing natural behavior. Some former participants stated that they felt pressure to perform the roles they had been assigned rather than genuinely transforming under situational influence. These revelations have led many researchers to argue that the experiment's conclusions were overstated and that its findings cannot be reliably generalized to human behavior in actual prisons or institutions. An empty corridor. The fluorescent lights turn off one by one until only shadows remain. A black and white photograph of the original experiment sits beside a worn research notebook. The notebook closes. The Stanford Prison Experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks. It lasted only 6 days. But the questions it created about power, authority, and human behavior have lasted for decades. Whether the study proved what its creators claimed, or whether it revealed more about the dangers of poorly designed research and unchecked authority within the experiment itself, remains a matter of serious academic debate. What is certain is that it forced a conversation about how institutions shape behavior and how easily the boundaries between role and reality can dissolve. Dark Experiments. Episode 6.